My name is Cassley Jackowski, and I am the head women's lacrosse coach here at Grove City College. I was introduced to FCA at a pretty young age. My mom was really involved with the organization in Syracuse, New York, where I grew up. And I will say that FCA has played a really pivotal role in my life and in my journey, just creating fellowship for me and a place to be renewed and restored just growing up. I was able to go to the camps during the summer as a camper, and then eventually was able to come back as a huddle leader, and now I get to go back and coach, which is really awesome. But it has been really pivotal just in my journey and my walk with the Lord. Growing up, I grew up in a Christian family. I was surrounded by people in my life that loved the Lord and had that be a foundation in their life. It was always really intriguing to me, and so it was something that I wanted to be a part of my life. But I didn't really truly understand who the Lord was until later on. I did accept Christ at a young age, but again, I didn't really understand who God was. At a young age, I developed a love and a passion for athletics and sports overall. I realized pretty quickly that God had gifted me with the talent and the ability to play and be successful. And I started finding a lot of success and acceptance and love from other people because of that. And so at a young age, I started to develop an unhealthy habit with sports. People in my life I felt like loved me because I could perform and I was successful. And it started to leak into other parts of my life. When I think about my experience with athletics, just right off the bat, I think about my performance, and if I didn't perform well, I wasn't gonna be loved, I wasn't gonna be accepted. If I performed well, then people would love me, and that was really unhealthy. And so it did leak into other parts of my life, and as I started to grow up, I started to search for that love and acceptance through sports. I would say right around my junior high years, I got involved with just the wrong crowd. I got introduced to a lot of really unhealthy habits in my life, and I started to develop some really unhealthy lifestyles right around the junior high years. And I think at the time, I didn't necessarily understand everything that I was getting myself into, and I don't think I even understood that it was wrong. I felt like I was happy and I was living, I guess, just a good life at that point. A couple years go by and I'm going into my junior year now, and I tear my ACL, and that was an injury that was also really pivotal in my life. Tearing my ACL, I think, was the first time that I really took a step back and looked at my life and where I was at in my life and where the Lord was in my life. I realized just through that injury and taking that step back that I was definitely broken, and I definitely had a problem that I needed the Lord to work on and heal me from. And I don't think that that was enough for me to give that to God and to trust Him. But it was enough for me to recognize that I was dealing with some really heavy stuff in my life and a darkness that had kind of taken a bigger grip on my heart than I had realized. It also made me take a step back and start to look at what was next in my college search. So I was originally looking at Division I schools. Those were the coaches that I was in contact with, and that was kind of where I had my mind going, was I'm going D1 and I'm going to enjoy it. And so when I tore my ACL, I really had to step back and look at, okay, are there other options for me? What else may God want for me in my life? And I had heard about Roberts Wesleyan College, but they weren't really on my radar because at that time when I'd heard of them, they didn't have my major. They didn't have just some of the things I was looking for within just my major in that route, but also they were Division III. So I kind of just written them off at the beginning. And because I just had time on my hands, I re-looked at their school, and it turned out that they were actually going to Division II the year I'd be attending, and they were also adding my major that year. So that was enough for me to at least go visit the school and check it out. And when I got on campus, I definitely felt God's peace, and that is where I should spend my next 4 years. And I will say that although I felt kind of far from God and I was trapped in a little bit of darkness in my life, I also felt the Lord was still leading me and he wasn't completely gone from my life. I still felt he was there and directing me. And so I ended up attending Roberts Wesleyan College, where I was a 4-year women's lacrosse player. And over my 4 years there, I definitely had my triumphs, but I had a lot of challenges as well. I had this internal battle almost of trusting God, but not trusting him enough to free me and heal me from the things in my life that had taken such a tight control. And like I said, just the darkness that had creeped so far in. And I would say my faith suffered because of that. My walk with the Lord suffered because of that. My performance suffered because of that. My relationships overall suffered because I just was at that internal battle of, where is God in my life? Do I trust him? And do I trust him enough? And I didn't. And throughout those 4 years, it was kind of an up and down process of, I trust him, but I don't trust him enough. And towards the end of my senior year, I started looking at what was the next chapter for me. Where was God gonna lead me next? I knew I wanted to coach. I thought I did at least. It felt like God was kind of putting that on my heart. And so I reached out to a Christian college that was nearby and just wanted to know if they had any openings on staff. They got back to me and they said they didn't, so I closed that door and I kind of just kept moving forward. And they reached out to me about a month later and told me that their coaching staff was now leaving and they're actually looking to hire. So I felt like God was telling me, okay, let's reopen this door. And I ended up applying for the position and was offered it shortly after that. I was fresh out of college. I was 22 years old looking at a head coaching job and at the college level. And so I felt like that was a really, really unique opportunity, and that doesn't come up very often. And it felt really direct that that was where I needed to be. So I ended up taking the job, and that was a big leap of faith on my part. I was 22 and stepping into a program that I had to rebuild, and I knew it was going to come with challenges. I don't think I expected it to be as challenging as it was. I was there for about almost 3 years, and my time there was unique for sure. Again, I faced a lot of challenges, and there were definitely moments of joy, but definitely a lot of challenges. I knew that I loved coaching, but I did feel lost, and I often questioned why God had me there. And I was also still just at an internal battle in my mind of, where is God in my life? I felt him there, but I just was still holding on to control of something in my life that had a grip and a darkness in me. I remember one night during my time there that I was just sitting on the floor, and I just felt so overwhelmed with where I was in my life. And I think I finally came face to face with just my issues and my darkness and what I had lived with for probably the last 8 years of my life. I don't think that I really realized, when I was in junior high, I don't think I really realized the consequences of what I was getting involved in and how that would impact me later in life, but it brought me to a point where I was just crippled. And so I remember sitting there on the floor and just begging God really to meet me where I was, because I felt like there was going to be no way out. I felt like that darkness had just taken such a control in my life that there was going to be no freedom for me. So I really just remember begging, just asking God, give me something. I need something, because I don't know what's next. And I was truly just really scared of where my life had come to in that moment. And so I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and I had to go to a coaching training session. So I went to the session, and the topic was the heart, and our speaker talked about your heart and how you need to deal with your heart and your past and the things in your life that you need healing and freedom from. And so I obviously knew that was a really direct, just call from God to hear him and hear his voice. I felt a little bit overwhelmed because I knew that God was speaking to me in those moments. And I got up during the session and I kind of just like snuck out the side door to go to the bathroom. And when I was leaving the bathroom, a lady walked in and she kind of grabbed me and she looked at me and she said, I know this isn't a mistake that you and I are meeting right now. You have been on my heart all morning. God has put you on my heart and he wants me to tell you something. And I was a little taken back because I never experienced something like that. And I said, okay, like, what is it? And she looked at me and she said, the Lord wants you to know that you are not your past and you are not your mistakes. You don't need to live in this darkness and you don't need to let that control your life. He is bigger than that. He can free you from that, and he wants you to see that and walk in the light and walk in freedom. And for me, that was all I needed to hear. I had never felt the Lord speak more directly to me than in that moment, which was a really amazing thing. And that was all it took for me to kind of take a turn and move forward. I would say in that moment, I really realized that God was hurting for me because I was putting him in a box in my life from the things that I didn't think he could free me from. And like I said, I was not trusting him enough to take control of those things. And I was putting him in a box and I kept him in that for a long time. And in that moment, I realized like, okay, God, you're greater than this. And let's do this. Like there's gonna be healing that comes forward. And so I did. I moved forward and I started my healing process and I confronted a lot of the issues that I had been dealing with. And the Lord just started to work in my life in amazing ways. Towards the end of my time at Houghton College, I would say right around my third year, COVID hit. And so I was kind of going through this healing process, COVID hit, and they sent everybody home. And I was still questioning, am I gonna go back for a fourth year? Like, God, you've asked me to go back for a second year and a third year, and are you gonna tell me to go back for a fourth year? Give me some clarity. And I remember just praying to God for him to just give me direction and what the next step was for me. And so I went to bed and I woke up and I got on a Zoom call and I was told that my position at the college was being eliminated due to COVID reasons. And so for me, I don't know, I just couldn't, you can't make that up. I felt like the Lord was giving me a really direct answer of, okay, let's close this door. And I think it's a little ironic because that's the quickest answer the Lord has ever given me in my life. And so I knew that door was closing for a purpose, and he had answered exactly what I had asked him for just the night before. So I started looking for what was next for me, what the next chapter was for me. I remember my parents telling me every day, we're so excited for you. We can't wait to see what door God opens and how God is going to use you in this next chapter. And I remember reaching out to Ryan from FCA and just asking him, if he had any coaching opportunities or he knew of any, because I still felt the Lord was calling me to coach and continue in that path. He told me that Grove City might be looking for a coach and to reach out to them. And so I did reach out to Grove City. And they were in the final round of their hiring process, but they gave me a chance, thankfully, and I ended up getting hired for the position shortly after that. I knew that that's exactly where the Lord was calling me to. I felt it in my heart, but also if I had been a day late on contacting them, they would have hired somebody else, and so I knew the Lord was telling me to go. And so I packed up, and I went to Western PA. I moved to Western PA. Which was also a big leap of faith for me. I was leaving my family and my support system and a place that I'd been comfortable in for most of my life. I will say when I got to Grove City, it was a home away from home. I felt a peace that surpassed all understanding, and I was truly able to walk in freedom. I think you hear people talk about the Lord provides that peace that surpasses all understanding, but until you really feel it and you really know what that's like and you really feel that in your heart, you can't understand it. And it has been incredible to just develop that feeling and have that peace through Christ now that I'm here. It has been the most enjoyable 2 years. I think I've been here for a year and a half now. It's been one of the most enjoyable 2 years of my life. The Lord has worked in my heart and in ways that I can't even believe. And he's brought me to this place for a reason. I hope that when people hear my story, that they're reminded that they're not alone. I hope that they're reminded that Christ defeated the darkness and he replaced that with light, and that no darkness has overtaken you. When you can give up control of the things in your life that need to be given to God, he will provide for you, he will heal you, and he will let you walk in a freedom that is truly indescribable. I felt it in my own life, and I truly wake up every morning just completely overwhelmed at the fact that God just saved me from a darkness that I truly felt like I was never going to get out of. It's overwhelming to think that he took that and he healed me from that, and now I get to walk in such a freedom that I couldn't before, and I couldn't for years of my life. I also hope people are reminded that the Lord doesn't go far from you. Throughout my time and my struggles, the Lord was still there, and he lit my path back to him, which was incredible, and I'm so grateful for that. But he didn't go far, and he directed my path still. And when you let the Lord direct your paths and you follow that, it will mold you, and you'll be exactly where you need to be. I look at all the chapters of my life and how it led up to this point, and it was so direct from the Lord of why I'm here. And now I get to do what I think is the best job in the world. I get to coach and impact and guide and aid young adults in their faith and being independent in their faith. I get to be an example of light and joy to my players and to others, and share my story about how the Lord has worked in my life, and just be an encouragement to them that you can walk in freedom, and that can be your foundation. And there's so much more to life than your own desires, but really walking with the Lord. And it's been a really incredible experience for me here. I'm really thankful to be where I am, and like I said, no darkness has overtaken you. The Lord has defeated that, and there's always light at the end of the tunnel.